Addiction has many faces and doesn't discriminate between the young, old, black, white, executive, homemaker, student, or plant worker. Don't suffer in silence. Find help, hope, and healing at Free Indeed Treatment Center. Free Indeed is a licensed, faith-based treatment facility that will help you get free and stay free. There are licensed professional counselors to help individuals and their families who struggle with addictions and destructive behaviors. Call 924-1910 or visit setfreeindeedministry.com.
I have a great guest with us today, and I know I say it all the time, but I'm just really blessed that I get to really talk to some great people who are doing great things in our community leaders who really have a heart for our community and for our state and even for our nation, and even everyday people like some of our guests who were last week, just people who are making great choices to empower other people in their community. I have with us today Judge Johnson, who's just a great lady. She is full of zeal and knowledge and knows the law. Thank you so much for being with us today.
And thank you for allowing me to be here with you today.
Well, you know, let's get it updated. We had this conversation about a year ago, I think it was. And so what are some of the things that are going on in your court? We know that right now a lot of crimes are being committed by juveniles, and we know that that's something that we need to address. Well, what are some of the things that are going on in your court?
Well, crime hadn't changed. In fact, it may have increased. And as we spoke last year, you know, we spoke about how important it is to have substance abuse treatment for the youth, both for the youth and their parents. And we still continue to have that need. Now, one of the things that's going on, we're going to have drug court for juveniles again.
Good. Again?
Again.
So we had it before?
We had it before. In fact, we created the very first juvenile drug court in the state of Louisiana and helped to put together other drug courts in the state of Louisiana. And because we are a very, very, very politicized parish, things happened and it was taken away. And with that, we had an increase of substance abuse use, and maybe not increased use, but simply because it was being unaddressed. Then, of course, it seemed to be more prevalent.
Right.
And with that, we also had more suspensions and expulsions from schools, because under Louisiana law, if there is an organized juvenile drug court program, then the school system do not have to expel the children from school for the period of time that is required by law currently.
Wow.
And because East Baton Rouge did not have one, that is why we have more dropouts or expulsions than some of the other parishes that have organized drug treatment programs.
So Judge, again, I know you see kids from what age?
I see kids for delinquency from 10 to 17 as the first time they're committing the crime. But if they are 16, I will see them up into 21. One
of the things I really like about you, you're big on prevention. You love kids, you love your job, you're called to do it, and you do it with such grace and tact. But however, you want to try to make sure kids never come to see you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I believe that we can do that early on. And if we move back into a partnership with the faith community and the schools in partnership, mind you, then I believe that we can have a great impact on not being able to see those children come into the court system.
And when we've been looking at the news and we pick up newspapers, we see that a lot of our crimes, and I said it earlier, are being committed by young adults. What are some of the reasons why?
Anecdotally, you know, we can come up with a lot of reasons. We tend to say that maybe those children are unsupervised, but children have always been unsupervised and they weren't committing a lot of crimes. I think another reason anecdotally may be that we have unidentified, undiagnosed mental health issues and also unidentified, undiagnosed, untreated substance abuse issues, both among the children and their parents.
And let me be, you know, be candid if I can, because we talk about mental health, and a lot of times people think people who have mental health issues are people, quote unquote, who are crazy, who, you know, act up and they're retarded. But I really want to deal with that myth about what mental health is, because mental health could be depression, it could be eating disorder, it could be post-traumatic stress.
Absolutely.
Which is common among young kids, because isn't it true that there are a lot of young kids who suffer from depression?
Absolutely, absolutely. And particularly here in East Baton Rouge Parish, and particularly in light of all the things we've been seeing happening in the community, shootings, all of that is part of that post-traumatic stress. Right. You know, you're seeing people shot, you're hearing about it, family members, they're fighting going on. All of that is depressive. Right. You're depressed about all of that. Right. So that in and of itself, and now we have so many diagnosed mental health issues. You know, we have reading disorders, math disorders, writing disorders, spelling disorders.
And that is a mental health issue.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of times people, like I said, think it's something just so far off the spectrum, but you know, those things are real.
Absolutely.
And we don't want to deal with them. Like I said, I think it's so funny if we have challenges with our eye, we'll go to our eye doctor, but when it comes to mental health issues, that's kind of a taboo thing. And kids do suffer the most.
Yes, because one of those things we want to get rid of that myth. Right. That you're psycho or you're psychotic. That is not necessarily the case.
Right. I know we were talking earlier and you really said something really profound. You said you just don't deal with the kids that come through your court. You deal with the parents, the siblings in the house. Tell me more about that.
Well, when a child comes to the juvenile court, then I must deal with the entire family. Because if I only dealt with the child and there are family issues and I don't deal with the family issues to so-called fix the child, doesn't mean a thing, because the child must return home. And unless and until you deal with the issues contained in that family, then you're not really helping that child.
So are there some things that you provide, or you probably make some referrals to family members? And I know that's another thing that's been passionate on your heart, and I forgot what the program was, but we talked about it last year. It was dealing with about parents, or
positive parenting, and I've still not been able to identify a provider who will do positive parenting.
Now tell me about that program.
Adolescents.
Tell me about that program.
What I would like to see happen, we have parenting classes and we talk about how important it is to nurture, to hold the baby when you feed them. Well, these children are no longer babies that need to be held while they're fed. They're children who need to be held and told and pat on the back and encouraged, saying, you can do it. You can do this. It's okay. We'll be able to take care of that. So the parenting that I'm looking for is just that, for adolescent children who have find themselves within the juvenile justice system, and parents who are unfamiliar with how to handle that, and parents who may have a child who have a diagnosed mental health disorder, and how you keep that child in the home with your other children and get that behavior kind of management issues, both for that child and also the other children in the home.
There was a case where someone had called us and said that we're having a challenge with our daughter. She's 14-year-old. She kept running away. She hadn't gotten into any trouble yet, but she's running away, staying out late at night, and so she's really crying out for help.
Absolutely.
Well, a program like that, can it benefit a parent?
Absolutely. That generally, we would say, come to our Families in Need of Services program. And those evaluations would take place. But once the evaluation is done, we need a provider to provide the services to that family, to help that family deal with that child. More probable than not, that child's having some mental health issues. And you recognize it by listening to this story, I'm sure. You recognize that, we need to get this child referred to him for psychological, so we can really find out what's going on. And then we begin to deal with those issues that have been identified.
Because, there's probably some trauma in the home that has transpired, and, it could be in the last year or many years ago. And again, that kid is acting out because post-traumatic stress.
Absolutely.
And that's real. And, our kids are so fragile. We hear a lot about kids who are being bullied in school, and those kids are scared to death.
Absolutely.
And it's just so many different other issues that kids face. And, kids are little people, and we need to treat them as such, because, we think that a kid never suffers from depression or, anything like that, so I'm not going to even talk about it.
And the other thing also, when we talk about being bullied, sometimes they don't tell the parents, sometimes they don't tell the school officials, or maybe they did say something to the school official, but they did nothing about it. So then they feel that they need to arm themselves to protect themselves, because nobody's going to protect them. And generally, that only get them in trouble.
Right. What are some of the other things that you've seen, you know, in your years of being on the bench, some prevention measures that, you know, if parents are out there listening or anyone, that you think that are really effective?
One of those things would be to talk to your child. I am not talking about being your child's best friend. That's inappropriate. That is totally inappropriate. But you must have an open line of communications where they can communicate with you and let you know things that are going on.
Right.
And you as an adult, as a parent, need to be able to respond to that in an appropriate manner.
Right.
But if you're their best friend, no. You can't do that.
No.
You can't do that. You must maintain a parental relationship with that child.
Yeah, and that's a good thing because we do want to be best friends with our kids and, you know, be hip parents and, you know, the cool parents and stuff like that. And we just need to be good parents.
We need to be good parents. Now, if that happened to be a cool parent, then actually I think a good parent is a cool parent.
That's a good, I think that's a little commercial.
Probably so. I think that is a cool parent. A parent who's cool enough to understand the trials and the challenges that the child faces, but wise enough to be able to direct that child in a positive direction and be able to address those issues that need to be addressed by an adult.
Right. Well, it's, you know, it's no, you know, new news, but we know that Louisiana, we have the highest incarceration rate in the nation per adults and juveniles. Is there anything that, you know, that's taken place or that's going to take place that's going to deal with that even more so? I know we talked about the mental health piece and the substance abuse piece, but how do we fix a system that broke?
We have to go back to the community. We have to have those community partnerships.
A village.
A village. We have to have those partnerships first with the home, schools, and the faith community. That is the only way we're going to do it. And the faith community must step up and be recognized as a community partner.
That's good.
They must step up and be recognized as a community partner who is willing to do something other than just be there.
Provide some services.
Provide some services.
Maybe even provide one of those classes that you were talking about, but the
parenting, to make the facility available for a provider to come in and provide the services in the community. Transportation is a large issue in our community.
It is. It really is.
So even if our faith community opened their doors to allow the services to be there, then the parents in the community can come to the community church as opposed to trying to find a ride across town. There's no bus service. Gas is very expensive these days, so if you find someone to take you, you have to pay them a certain amount of money. They can't afford it.
Yeah, man, it is. And those are the kind of things that we definitely need help in. Well, we know you're a great judge, but we also know that, you know, you're a mother and you're a community organizer. And what are some of the things outside of the bench that you're doing? I know it's tons of them, but only a few. Because, you know, when we sit down and talk, I'm like, man, how do you sleep? When do you sleep?
Oh, gosh, very early. I go to bed very early. I get up very early in the morning and go to bed very early at night. So in between that time, I am also an adjunct professor at Southern University in the Criminal Justice Department.
Wow.
I'm partly because that is the largest growing job industry right now.
Is it really?
Right behind nursing in the medical profession, something related to the medical profession. I don't know why criminal justice is the fastest growing industry.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Especially in Louisiana.
Imagine that.
Man.
So I agreed to teach. So with that we may have the right kind of information, both in theory and practice, to deal with the populations that we're seeing in the criminal justice system.
Right, that's good.
Is it tiring? Oh yes, it is very difficult to be at court from about 7:15 in the morning, because generally I'm there about 7:15 to 7:30.
Wow.
And leave there, teach a 6 o'clock class that ends at 9 o'clock at night.
Wow. That's a lot.
It can be very tiring on some days.
Well, we had a conversation recently about the challenges in the Brookstown area, and one of the things that we talked about that I'd really like for you to explain a little bit more about is that, you know, this is serious and it is a public health issue.
I feel it's a public health issue, and I believe that we should address it as such.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's a public health issue. Yes, it's a public health issue when someone is shot, okay? Where are they going to go for treatment? To the hospital. You have to respond to that. And if it's a drive-by or a random shooting, how many other people can possibly be injured with that? In addition to that, if you have children or anyone who is witnessing that, what is going on?
Right.
You got the depression is going on, you have post-traumatic stress, all of these things as if they're in a war zone.
Right.
And if we were to look at some of these children in that community and look at some of the previous studies of children in similar kind of conditions, they found that the children behaved and act as if they were in a war zone.
Wow. Wow. And you know what, it's just so funny because, you know, when we talk about, you know, crime and murders in that area, the kids talk about it like it's second nature. That's scary.
That's very scary because what it does is desensitize them. They're becoming desensitized, as in a war zone.
Right. And we noticed too that, you know, we've been in the Brookstown area, I guess about 3 months now, and it's really been an effort on a lot of people, and, you know, we're, you know, grateful that there's not been any murders, you know, in the past since we've been in that area. But I've noticed that there's still, you know, more, you know, other pockets of murders that's been taking place in our community, and it is a public health issue.
There are a couple of things you've been doing in the Brookstown area, in addition to just being there, letting the residents know that you care, letting the residents know that someone is there and that they can talk to, and if there are things that you can help them with, referrals to here. A lot of times people are not receiving services because they just don't know that they exist.
That's right.
In addition to that, there's another thing that's going on in the Brookstown community that is curbing the murders and the violence. You're praying. I know that.
Yeah, we are.
I know that.
Yeah, a lot, you know. But,
yes.
But you
Explore new worlds. Read. Visit literacy.gov and let the journey begin.
really excited about first-time homebuyers. Going back to your parenting, I think parenting was the third thing. It was first-time homebuyers, job readiness, and parenting classes that they wanted more than anything in that area. We've done a survey, and we've been talking about, you know, that survey, and we're going to even begin to dig deeper. What are some of the things you think that we're going to probably find out when we're doing these surveys?
I think you're going to find that the literacy level is rather low, and before you can get job readiness skills really working, you're going to have to deal with literacy.
You know what? You're right, because a lot of times we want to put the cart before the horse.
Yes, I think we're going to find that. And I think you're going to have to put more counseling in, more counseling, just talking. And you'll find that a lot of the residents are going to open up about some things that has been depressing them that is not necessary for them to be depressed about because it can be easily addressed. For instance, you may find that some residents may have warrants, bench warrants, simply because they did not appear in court. I don't mean simply because, that's very serious. And they'll tell you the reason they didn't appear in court. Maybe they had a traffic ticket. They didn't have the money to pay the ticket. So rather than going to court, they just didn't go, as opposed to going to court, explaining, I do not have the money, give me some additional time to pay. And the judges will do that.
So you guys will work with people?
Absolutely. I'd rather you come to court and let me know that you can't pay as opposed to not showing up, because this is what's going to happen. You get a warrant issued for your arrest. You're going to be arrested at some point. There's going to be a fine attached to that to recall the bench warrant, and you're still going to have to pay.
Right.
It's not going to go away. Same thing with child support. There are a lot of men and women who have child support obligations. And maybe at the time that they had the child support obligation, maybe they don't have a job at the time. Or maybe they had a job at the time and they do not have the job now with the economy. When you are summoned to appear in court where we review your child support obligation, show up, whether you're employed or not.
Right, that makes sense.
Please show up.
That makes sense.
Because what we're reviewing your compliance with your court-ordered child support payments.
Right.
If you do not show up, you're going to get a bench warrant for failure to appear.
Right.
If you show up and show that you are unemployed, you will not be held in contempt of court.
Yeah.
One thing, particularly, people do not understand, more so than not, I believe, people of color do not understand. Contempt means simply this in simple terms. I have the ability to do what you ordered me to do, Judge, but I'm just not going to do it.
Okay, there's another word my parent called it, but okay, that works.
So,
Stubborn, bullheaded.
Stubborn, bullheaded. It has to be the contumacious failure to follow an order of the court. So if you are required to pay $100 a month child support, you have no job. It's not that you did not pay it because you had the $100 and you did not pay it. You could not pay it because you had no job or any means by which to pay it. We understand that.
Yes.
The answer is not just don't show up because I didn't have the money and I know you're going to put me in jail.
Yeah.
Not necessarily so.
Well, I'm going to ask you this question, and you have a great perspective, I think, on this. As a parent and as a judge, you know, it's hard to parent these days. It is hard.
Very difficult.
You know, what's a parent to do? I mean, you know, I think more parents need to get together and have a support group. I'm not a parent.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
You know, and, you know, I mean, how do you guys do it? I mean, it's tough raising kids these days.
It is very difficult.
I don't care who you are, what your social,
it's very difficult.
status is, you know, economic, it does not matter. I mean, it is hard raising kids.
Because there are a lot of influences that our children have and a lot of things available. There's a computer. We didn't have a computer. Cell phone, and when you had a cell phone, then now everything comes over the cell phone. You know, everybody have an iPhone and all those other things. But you have a computer right in your hand, so you don't have to wait to get back to the house to look on the computer. Then you have 100 or maybe more channels than that on the TV. I can remember growing up, we had 3 channels, ABC, NBC.
And that's it.
That's it.
And it went off when the Star Spangled Banner went off.
Yes, it was at midnight or was it 10 o'clock?
That's
it. Now TV is on all night.
It is.
And you can go from one channel to the next. And in addition to that, there's even music on the TV now. So all of these things are very difficult. You have to have all these forces. Then the music that is, we used to with the FCC have regulations on music and what was shown. We don't have that.
So it's important that parents really listen to what their kids are listening to and watching.
Absolutely. You know what I have to do, because I can't stand some of this music that you all listen to, you young people listen to.
Funny, young people.
I have to actually print the lyrics out. And then
That's a good idea.
I have to print the lyrics out, then I understand how depraved they really are, and then I can begin to talk about that. Because oftentimes it's going into their little spirits, but they're bouncing to the beat.
That's right.
But also the lyrics are going into their spirit.
Exactly.
And they don't even know what they're talking about sometimes.
Right.
But we know what they're talking about.
Right.
And it's so important to say, look at this, what do you think this means?
Right. Well, you know what, one of the things that I want to do, and maybe we can, you know, talk about this more, but I would love to have a night, you know, in our community. It's called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Your Family. And really, you know, just really encourage families on this one particular day just to, you know, cook a simple meal, you know, and just spend time with their family. Just sit down at a dinner table and eat and discuss, you know, the topics of today or whatever, and then just take a board game and do a board game.
That is so perfect.
I think we should do that.
I am telling you, and I've been talking about that at home, that we'll do that. I have a 25-year-old, And also we have a 16-year-old.
Wow.
Well, I can remember just the difference between a 16-year-old and 25, where we used to actually play board games together. I don't remember us doing this with the 16-year-old. I really don't.
See, it's time.
I really don't.
It's time, and I mean, I think it'll be a great thing for our community, knowing that on this particular day, you know, between these 3 hours, that families are just having a good time, listening to their kids, you know, talking about what's going on with them. Because most parents, I ask them, I say, well, what's going on with your kid? I have no idea. I have to find out on Facebook.
Facebook.
I have to find out on MySpace, you know.
Well, at least they can go there and find out. I would have difficulty with that.
I know, but you know what? And you know, I have to watch it because even with texting, I love texting because it's straight to the point. Hey, how you doing? Where are you? You know, but it's so...
I don't like that either.
I
am old school for sure. I'll tell you. I think I told you last year my phone was just chirping. I thought it was the battery. And I recharged the battery, and I was in this meeting. I said, I don't know what's wrong with this phone. I must take it back because the battery just keeps going down.
Right.
And they said, why do you say that? I said, don't you hear it chirping? They said, no, you have a text message. Oh, what's that?
I'm telling you, I mean, but so many kids are, you know, doing it now and on the computer and stuff like that. But, you know, it is a time where I think that, you know, no matter who you are, you know, it's just time to take some time out and spend some time out with our, you know, our kids and our families, just talking about what's going on.
I agree with that, and I'm going to do that, and that's what we try to do that, and let's do it without the movie, because that's oftentimes when we're together, we're looking at a movie or something like that.
But you're not communicating, because everybody's like looking at it, and if we're not like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because we'll sit and look at a movie, and then of course, I'm hyperactive, so I want to move around and talk, and they don't want me to do any of that.
No. I want to listen. I want to listen.
Be quiet. Be quiet.
Exactly. But those are some of the good things, like I said, and I really commend you on the hard work that you do as a professor at Southern University, but more so as a judge who knows the law, who's fair and compassionate. And again, I like the fact that you're all about prevention. You're about preventing kids so they won't have to come and visit you.
Absolutely. If I don't have to see them, I tell my children all the time, I don't want to see you back here again. When I see you, let it be at the Walmart or some of those places. I'm not a commercial for Walmart.
That's right.
But where I like to hang out.
That's right.
Things like that.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you do in our community.
Maybe Walmart will send us some money for a free commercial.
Maybe so. See you next time on Choicestv.
Addiction has many faces and doesn't discriminate between the young, old, black, white, executive, homemaker, student, or plant worker. Don't suffer in silence. Find help, hope, and healing at Free Indeed Treatment Center. Free Indeed is a licensed, faith-based treatment facility that will help you get free and stay free. There are licensed professional counselors to help individuals and their families who struggle with addictions and destructive behaviors. Call 924-1910 or visit Set Free.
Today I'm going to talk about Patty. Patty's best characteristics, she's stupid and ugly. Everything she does is ugly. Watch her eat. Watch her stuff her face. Look at her, greasy hair, dirty fingernails. It makes me want to vomit. Get a life, Patty. Thank you.